So let's talk about it. MJF, Britt Baker. Do you think Britt Baker MJF thing is over? Effectively, now I do. And Thomas says, I hope Britt and MJF can put their differences aside, maybe turn it into a work. Do Britt Ospreay versus MJF Mercedes. That ain't happening. Maybe they can put it aside, but Jimmy, I had heard about this the day after it happened, and I don't get to just blurt things out. So I've been working on it, and it's a lot of he said, she said, and it's hard to run stuff like that. Now, every single person in this situation I have interviewed and had good experiences with, and I hate that. MJF and Britt were very close. They were really good friends up until like last year at some point. I don't know why that is, but I knowing what I know about Britt, I understand why she has her guard up, and MJF cares more than people think, and so does Britt. There are people that care an awful lot and have different ways of showing that, and they care about a lot of the same things, but when one doesn't get their way and the other one does, you're going to have a clash in that. What did you think when we heard the news? And I'll sort of correct anything that needs to be corrected.
Well, the main reason I wanted to even talk about this is because of the discourse online. That was the main reason.
Oh, boy.
So there were a lot of people.
Wild misinformation.
Yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
No,
people claiming that we reported he barged in and he punched the wall next to Britt's head. Like, y'all are fantasy booking stuff.
Yes. So when I saw all that discourse, that's the reason I wanted to talk about it. People are flat out making shit up. So I'll throw it to you in a minute, but first I'll say what the allegations were, throwing aside the bullshit. So the allegation is that it started with Britt Baker complaining in the women's locker room that MJF and Ospreay were getting an hour of television time on Dynamite. Alicia Toot was in the women's locker room. That's MJF's girlfriend. She allegedly reported back to MJF what Britt said, and MJF then confronted Britt. They had a heated discussion, I suppose, and she got suspended for a short period of time. And then the internet just went wild with made up shit. And this is why I wanted to talk about it, so that you could kind of get down to the truth of it. So everything I just discussed, is there truth to that? I'm sure there's more to it. Talk about the rest.
So I just want to make this clear. I am not inserting personal opinion, and a lot of this is he said, she said. Now, I'm not going to say that he is MJF and she is Britt Baker, but enough people that I've talked to around the situation. And AEW claims there was an internal investigation, and people that saw what happened were interviewed. People, the Britt side is that she wasn't talking trash, everybody else was. And the word was that Alicia had informed MJF, and he had brought it up around Ospreay, and then Ospreay approached Britt like, hey, what's going on? First off, we don't want the hour-long match thing to leak out. And I was told that was a nothing discussion, and it was just him like, hey, let's try to keep peace in the locker room type of thing. And I can say this about Will Ospreay. There was somebody who talked down to an extra, I want to say 3 weeks ago, and that extra told me that Will Ospreay told that staff member, don't you ever talk to one of our extras like that again.
That's good.
Treat him with respect. So it seems like he's making a real great effort to, I don't even know if it's lead, but be a good dude in that locker room. And the one side of things claimed that when Britt found out that Alicia had told MJF that she cursed at Alicia a toot, although Britt's side of thing denies calling her, I think, a fucking bitch is what it was. And both sides pretty well agree that Britt had said, if you're going to be a locker room snitch, get out of our locker room. At which time MJF was told about that as well. And he went to the locker room. AEW, even in a fairly official capacity, said that everybody they talked to claimed that MJF knocked on the door and was given entry to check on Alicia. And the conversation with Britt Baker happened outside of the locker room. They had an altercation in that regard, and that he walked down the hall and then punched a wall. I was not given any information as to why specifically Britt Baker was suspended and why MJF wasn't. Listen, in that situation, I don't think it's okay to punch a wall, damage a venue in any capacity. but there's wild misrepresentation here. And it's one of those situations, much like any fight, argument, or anything. The truth probably somewhere in the middle. And I really wish that they could hash it out for the sake of AEW, for the sake of them, for the sake of the talented individuals involved. You know, I see a lot of people say, oh, well, MJF or Britt's going to WWE. I doubt it, buddy. I doubt it. But there's a lot of misinformation there and a lot of people just editorializing and fantasy booking. And I've had positive experiences with all involved. And again, you have to understand the hyper criticism that they face. One, because they're in AEW. Two, because Britt's a woman. Three, because MJF is heavily pushed and has a spine and will say stuff back to each other. Britt was the first person signed by a woman signed by AEW, so she gets hyper analyzed and criticized as well. Britt has had issues in the past. There's a lot of people that really celebrate things like this when they happen, and I hate covering stuff like this. It ain't fun. It's not fun.
I mean, you know, when you're dealing with a pro wrestling locker room, you're always going to have to deal with egos. And I think that somebody like Britt Baker, if she didn't care about the television time and wanting to have her opportunity, she wouldn't say anything. Sure. And there's some talents, they just want to collect that paycheck and they don't give a shit if they are used or not.
Absolutely.
But Britt does, right? So the main thing I can say is it feels to me, it used to be that you seem to hear stories every month about the AEW locker room. That's how it used to feel. And you'd hear about, oh, here's another one with this person. Here's another one with this person. It does feel like less so now. And it feels like this was blown up on the internet based on shit that was flat made up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I mean, I had heard about this and I was actively working on it. And I'll see people say, oh, well, why haven't you commented on this or reported this? I don't get to just blurt out shit that appears on a Discord. And even like when people go, oh, I broke this. And I'm like, well, you can't ask for us to pursue something when there are also 2 or 3 verifiably untrue things in your post. Like we look into it on our own. That's the element. That's the extent of what I'll say there. And I'm continuing to look into it. Fightful Select has reported that Britt will be back on TV sooner than later.